So we know that we were able to save data into our database, so favorite objects are being saved, which is great. Now we want to show those inside of our favorite screen. So we want to create a structure like this. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Now we should have, I believe already, let me get rid of some of these. Let's go and find a favorite screen. Very good. All right, it's very empty, nothing is there. That's fine. That's why we're here. So we have our nav controller that we're passing, and we will need something else. Guess what? Yes, we need a favorite view model like this, and I'm going to go ahead and just instantiate it HILT view model so we can actually use it. So I'm going to create a scaffold here, nothing really new. For our top bar, I'm going to pass the weather app bar as such. I'm going to pass our nav controller, and I'm also going to pass a few other parameters here because we can do that. Remember, that's the reason why we created this nav bar, this app bar I should call it, so that we can do things like this. We can customize to our liking. So say favorite cities. Okay, for the title, I'm going to put it in an icon here. Say icons, default arrow back. Good. Is main screen. Just say false. That works as well because it's not main. And we have nav controller. That's very good. Okay. And let me make sure here, because I know I have that lambda. So when the back button is clicked, I'm going to use nav controller and say pop back stack. Okay, let's see. Put all in one lambda, that's fine. Okay, so now here is going to be where we add all of this information, right? The body of our favorite cities. Well, it's going to be very simple. First of all, let me put a surface here. What's new? And I'm going to add a modifier, give a padding of a 5 dp, because I like to add a modifier. And I'm going to fill max width. Let's import our dp there. And that's good. Let's add a column. And for a column, let's start with a vertical alignment or arrangement. Say arrangement. I want center. And horizontal, I'm going to say alignment, center horizontally. That's about that. And here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a val, call this a list, and I'm going to say view model, or rather our favorite view model. I'm going to invoke the fav list variable, which is the property, if you remember correctly, that we created, right? Inside of the view model, get the value, and I'm going to say collect. Actually, I don't need the val. I'm going to say dot, and let's go ahead and say collect as state like this, and then get the value. All right, so we get the actual state, which remember is needed for composables, because composables, they are triggered by data, but most importantly, data that's wrapped inside of a state. Okay, all right, that's all. Not really. When pass a lazy column here, and I'm just going to use the lambda. It's much easier that way. I'm going to say items. I'm going to use that flavor of items. Items, of course, in this case, I'm going to set it to our list of items there. Pass another lambda. And for our lambda here, what I'm going to do, call this city row. I'm going to pass our IT which is each one of our favorite objects, and pass our nav controller, which is our nav controller at the top, and also I'm going to pass the favorite view model as such. All right, let's go ahead and create our city row composable at the bottom here. Let me go and import that. Okay, and instead of IT, let's just call this favorite, like that. Remove the excess, and good. All right, so here we're just going to create this very simple structure. I'm going to create a surface, of course, and pass in a modifier, give a padding of about 3 dp, and fill max width. I'm going to give a height of about 50 dp as such. All right. And the other thing I want to make sure that happens is that this is also clickable, because we need to click on that, and we're going to come back to that. So continuing here, I'm going to add a shape called circle shape and such. I'm going to actually customize this a little bit to add that pizzazz. So top end, I'm going to put a corner size there of about 6 dp. This is just me trying to be fancy. Nothing really necessary, but you know, give it a color here. Say color. I'm going to use hex codes. So 0x, FF, for the alphas and so forth. B2 DFDB, like this. Again, you can always change by clicking on the gutter there and change the color. Very handy. Okay, there we go. And so now inside of our structure here, our compose surface, let's remove that redundancy there. I think I already have, nope, all is good there. And now I'm going to create a row. Remember, I'm just creating this structure now inside there. This row, I'm going to make sure I pass a few modifiers here. So modifier, oops. Fill max width, and vertical alignment. I want this to be center vertically, and horizontal arrangement, I want this to be spaced evenly, and that's about it. And now it's just a matter of adding these text, all of that there. Okay. So let's start with the text. I'm going to use the object favorite because I have access to it. We're passing it there. And I want to get the city property. Give it a modifier. I want to give a start padding here of about 4 dp, and that's about it. And then if you look closely, it looks like I've also added, I do have something else here. Let's get rid of that. I have a background, and then on top I have the text. So just another surface. What's new? Surface. Pass a modifier. Just hit 0 dp for snow padding, and let's add a shape because I want that circle shape. Pass in a color. Okay, that's the color I want. And then inside, that's what I'm going to pass to the text, right? And it's going to be favorite dot country. Oops, country like this. Let's pass, of course, a modifier. I'm going to give a padding overall for DP and give a style, the material theme, give a typography, say caption like this. Okay, so we're done with this part. Now we're going to look at this there. So I'm going to go outside, of course. Let's see, we have this structure there. We created this row. Let's remove that. So right after that, I'm going to create another icon. Let's use a different there. I want to delete. Let's just pass null, actually. Let's just say delete. Pass a modifier. I want this to be clickable. It's very important. And also, I want to pass a tint color to change things a little bit. I'm going to say color red and change things a little bit. Alpha 0.3f. Okay. Now, what do we want to happen when we click on this button? It's very simple. All we want to do is delete that favorite CD. So I'm going to say favorite view model dot delete and pass our favorite object. Look how simple this is now, because we've structured everything again to emphasize everything is well structured. We have the lower part, repository, view model, and so forth. So now at the top level of everything, it's so much easier to use what we've worked so hard for. So just delete past that favorite object, which we know has been passed along in our CD row, and we're done. And the great thing now here is that what we want, in fact, let's just run this real quick to see if we're going to see something, right? Because we've been looking we've been working on the favorite for a while. Let's run this and hopefully make sure we can see something. All right, so let's go to our favorites. We can do that by clicking favorites. Aha! Just like that, we see San Diego, Seattle, Moscow. These are the cities we have added before. How wonderful. In fact, because the delete is already there, I can click and voila, it's gone. If I go back, of course, say San Diego here. Of course, that was the last thing we had. I can add something else. Let's say Rio de Janeiro. Hopefully you get something. All right, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. That's saved. I know this is saved now. Go to favorites. I should see Rio de Janeiro. And Brazil, it's there. All right, very good. So it's working. Now the idea is that when we click on this structure here, the whole thing, right, the whole row, we want to be able to go back to our main, and whatever that was clicked, we are going to repopulate this main screen here with that new city. Why do we do that? Well, first of all, we have the nav controller in our city row, and we're going to call that somewhere. Well, we call that inside of this surface, because remember, this is the surface that is this whole surface there, right? So when that is clicked, we want to do something. Yes, we say nav controller, and then we say navigate. Remember, we get the correct one, the route string like this, and here we pass the route. So I'm going to use the weather screens. That's the enum, and I'm going to go to main screen.name. But look how wonderful this is. Remember, when we go to main screen, we have to pass a variable. In this case, we have to pass the city, which happens to be the city that we have right now set up for us, right? So I'm going to say something like that, and then pass in the variable, which is our favorite .ct, like that, right? Because this favorite object here is what's being passed in our city row which in this case is going to be that favorite that we got from our favorite view model, right? We loop through the list to create this lazy column, which is this that shows there, right? And now we have access to each individual object because that's passed along in our city row. In this case is the favorite, and we can use that get the city to navigate to weather the main screen, and then we should pass in the new city. And right, just for a reminder, I'm going to say main screen. You notice that main screen needs that information, right? We still have that log t there, but it needs the city for navigation because we passed that city name into our get weather data, another view model, in our produce state, which drives everything here. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to favorites and let's say San Diego. Click, voila, San Diego is showing, and it's showing everything about San Diego. 7-day, everything works, right? Because all that drives everything is our get weather data. We pass the city name, which we receive from our route. From our route, our navigation arguments. Right? If I change this, go to favorites again, I want Rio de Janeiro again, click, Rio de Janeiro is showing, I go, I want Seattle this time, and voila. Now there are a few things we need to do specifically. We see here that even though Seattle comes from, it's part of our favorite, they give us the option to still like this or still favor this city, which is not what we want. So we want to be able to check, first of all, whenever we come here, our main screen, to check to see if the city we are on right now, if that's the city, it's contained in our database, then we're going to hide this because it makes no sense to show this, right? It's just like, well, we already have that city, so we don't need to save it again. Even though if we try to save again, with the strategy we have in our database table and so forth, we said that if it's the same item, we can always override it. But even though that's true, but this is just not good user experience. So we're going to hide that depending whether or not we have that city already in our database. So that's what we're going to be doing next.